Welcome back to Gimme Five with Jones and Eli. Eli, who is the best movie villain of all time?
Well, it's a bit of a tricky question here because you got to take a lot of things into consideration, including the actor, including the movie, including the performance. So I'm going to give you two answers, okay? The best specific movie villain of all time was Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, because that is a villain that when you watch that movie, no offense to Christian Bale, but you're watching that movie for Ledger, for his performance as the Joker, and that just seals the stage. One of, if not the best performances in a movie of all time, much less for a movie villain. So that's got to be up there. But I would say the Joker as a character is maybe not the best villainous character of all time because it's been played by a lot of guys throughout history. You're telling me Jared Leto as the Joker is going to be an evil villain? No, come on, let's be serious. So if we're talking about just a character, I'm going to go to Darth Vader. I know it's boring. I know it's not exciting, but he is just the epitome of evil. Dun 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 dun. It's scary. You get a little bit of fear in your heart, and the New York Yankees still play that song when they walk out because they're so evil as well.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. The Yankees are the evil empire. I'm going to give you a name here, and I agree. Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, that is the best villainous performance of all time. I might say that that's the best villain, but let me throw out a name. How about he who shall not be named, Voldemort? I mean, he is a scary guy. I almost feel like Darth Vader's humanized just a little bit when you watch the first three, because I mean, I was an Anakin lover. I was always a fan of Anakin. I always see Anakin behind the mask. And I think maybe somebody you want to throw out there is the Emperor. That guy is even more villainous. Palpatine is one of the great villains of all time. Darth Vader's almost a tragic villain. And I would say Voldemort is a tragic villain as well. But man, when he gets in those fights with Harry Potter, especially in the fourth one when they're in that graveyard, he is horrifying, Elias.
Well, I mean, I think you're onto something there, in that a lot of times these big movies try to make your villain sympathetic in some ways, especially if in a big franchise like a Harry Potter, like a Star Wars. You try to give a backstory. There was a Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, where they kind of made you feel bad for him a little bit. At least, just not even if you don't feel bad, but just to understand the motivations. One character where they did not do that, and rightfully so, Jones, Inglorious Bastards, Hans Landa. Christoph Waltz in this movie, one of my all-time favorite movies, by the way. That is a performance. Obviously, he's playing a Nazi, so nothing sympathetic about that at all. And a brilliant performance from Waltz, and just a terrifying, terrifying character who really just makes that movie. It's just, you can't take your eyes away.
No, it's horrifying. And I always look at that movie as kind of a one-to-one, obviously both great Tarantino masterpieces, to Django Unchained. And you think about DiCaprio's performance, and because Landa, I believe, is like a kind of a good guy or protagonist in Django.
Waltz is a good guy in that, yeah.
Right. And DiCaprio's Candy, the slave owner, the bad guy. So I look at that too. Then you go over to some of the other like superhero movies. I think Red Skull is a good villain. Who else is up there for you?
For me, I gotta say, let's go back to some original stuff. I would say the original bad guy. Okay, he's not villainous in the same sense, but the big bad wolf, Jones. Are you kidding me? Bad is in the name. This guy is just blowing down houses for fun, killing people's grandmas. Like, this guy is truly evil for no reason.
I think you got to throw Dracula in there. When that bro pulls up and he's like, I'm scared, man. I am scared. Oh my god! And there's a classic. Bela Lugosi played Dracula back in like the 30s. Dracula. I mean, that was a scary dude, bro.
Is he bad though? Have you seen Hotel Transylvania?
No, okay, well, that's just propaganda. That is vampire propaganda.
Drax a good guy, man. He's misunderstood.
No, when Adam Sandler is voicing him, he's a good guy, but he's a bad guy. Talk about a bad animated guy that you love too. How about Gru?
Well, he's the protagonist. He's an anti-hero. He's like Don Corleone. Would you call Don Corleone a bad guy?
Well, would you call Tony Soprano a bad guy?
Exactly my point.
Would you call Walter White a bad guy?
I would call Walter White a bad guy, yeah.
But you're rooting for Walter White most of the show. He's a protagonist.
That's what I think.
Well, what's interesting is I think the way that cinema has moved. At first, it was always like we are with the guy who is morally right and we're against the guy who's morally wrong. But as we've progressed as a culture and progressed in our cinematic skills, we're like, wow, that never tells the full story. How about, you talk about making a character, a bad guy, a little more sympathetic. Then we get into this whole genre of these kind of anti-heroes, like guys who are bad dudes by ethical standards, like Tony Soprano. But you love Tony Soprano. You love the shit out of Tony Soprano if you watch The Sopranos.
Because like being a bad guy and not being a bad guy, but watching a bad guy is just more fun to watch than watching a good guy. If you watch a guy who's going to do some chaos and make some mischief, that's more fun than watching a guy who just is a goody two shoes. Really quickly, last one. I don't know if you've seen this movie, but No Country for Old Men. Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh. Oh my God. Some of the scariest shit I've ever seen. He is terrifying.
I will certainly have to watch it. This has been Gimme 5 with Jones and Eli. A reminder to follow us on Instagram and TikTok for a chance to suggest our next pod topic. Eli, thanks for talking.
Always a pleasure, Jones. Talk to you soon.